Exodus. Author, Moses, the author of the 5 books of the law. Time of writing: approximately 1490 before Christ, in the 2nd year after the Exodus, after the tabernacle was erected. Place of writing: in the wilderness and at Mount Sinai. Time period covered: from approximately 1706 before Christ, when Jacob came to Egypt, until 1 year after the Exodus from Egypt in 1490 before Christ. Most of the book covers a period of about 1 year. Subject of Exodus: Christ is the redemption, salvation, and supply of God's people and the means for them to worship and serve God, so that in Him they may be built up with God together, for them and God to meet, communicate, and dwell mutually. Exodus chapter 1. Now these are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob. Each man came with his household: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah; Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin; Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. And all the persons who came forth from the loins of Jacob were 70 persons, but Joseph was already in Egypt. And Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. But the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and grew exceedingly strong, and the land was filled with them. And a new king rose up over Egypt, who did not know of Joseph. And he said to his people, the people of the children of Israel are now more numerous and stronger than we. Come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and, when some war occurs, they also join themselves to those who hate us and fight against us and go up from the land. So they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens. And they built storage cities for Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied, and the more they spread out, so that they came to dread the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with harshness. And they made their lives bitter with hard labor in mortar and in brick and in all kinds of labor in the field. All their labor with which they made them serve was with harshness. And the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, one whose name was Shiphrah and the other whose name was Puah. And he said, when you act as midwives for the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stool, if it is a son, then you shall put him to death, but if it is a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt had commanded them, but let the male children live. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, why have you done this thing and let the male children live? And the midwives said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are vigorous. Before the midwife comes to them, they give birth. And God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very strong. And because the midwives feared God, he established households for them. And Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, every son who is born you shall cast into the river, but every daughter you shall let live.